Welcome back to From the Shadow to the Light, the podcast that delves deep into the journey from darkness to enlightenment. Hi, I'm Debbie Gill, your guide on this transformative journey of profound discovery and personal evolution. Today, we open the I Surrender chapter, which is both challenging and profoundly transformative. This episode explores not merely the act of letting go, but the profound moments that lead us to lay down our defenses and open our hearts to change. Surrender isn't about admitting defeat. It's about embracing the possibility of a new beginning, a fresh start that can only occur when we acknowledge our limitations and seek help beyond ourselves. It's important to remember that seeking help is not a sign of weakness, but a testament to our strength and understanding. As we navigate through today's narrative, we'll uncover the raw, unfiltered moments of a day that forever changed the course of one life, my own. It was a day filled with harsh realizations and the heavy burden of accumulated neglect, not just of myself, but of those who depended on me. It was the day I learned that hitting rock bottom could also be the start of a crucial ascent. So sit back, take a deep breath, and join me as we delve into this personal story of crisis and clarity. This is more than just a recount. It's a journey into the heart of what it means to truly surrender and the incredible strength found in the most vulnerable moments, empowering us to face our challenges with resilience. The moment of realization. As dawn broke, I came to, and a heavy realization washed over me. It was an ordinary Monday, but the weight of the past weeks had culminated in a moment of undeniable truth. The fog from the previous evening lifted just enough to reveal the consequences of my actions. This wasn't just about a night gone wrong. It was a series of choices that had spiraled out of control, each pulling me further from the person I once hoped to be. Still under the influence, with my head pounding and the glare of the sun piercing my vision, I stumbled into my car. My temples throbbed with every heartbeat, and the pain intensified with the blinding light. I could feel the anger boiling within me, anger at myself and my situation. I gripped the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. In a sudden outburst of frustration and self-loathing, I punched the dashboard, the sting in my hand serving as a bitter reminder of the turmoil I had created. The realization of my neglect hit hard in the bright morning light. My two dogs, Frankie and Chessie, had been left alone all day and night, a thoughtless act that reflected how far I had abandoned myself. The guilt of neglecting them with no food or water, along with the filthy conditions of my living situation, was a clear reflection of my inner chaos. Each mile I drove home was a struggle, fighting to keep my eyes open, battling the overwhelming nausea and wrestling with the dread that gnawed at my insides. Familiar landmarks blurred as I sped past, driven by a desperate need to see my dogs, to know that they were okay, even as the fear of what awaited me grew stronger. When I finally reached home, the relief of finding Frankie and Chessie safe was overwhelming. But their condition and the disarray of the house was a painful reminder of my negligence. This moment wasn't just about recognizing the need for change, but confronting the harsh reality of who I had become. Looking around at the mess I had created, I realized it wasn't the real me who had turned into this monster. It was the alcohol that had taken over, leading me down a path of destruction I would never have chosen otherwise. Without its influence, I wouldn't be in this pathetic and egregious situation. Think about a time when a sudden realization changed your perspective. What was the catalyst for this change? How does facing the consequences of our actions help us understand the impact of our choices? Seeking help. After the initial relief of finding Frankie and Chessie safe, the guilt over their condition weighed heavily on me. I fed them and refilled their water bowl, trying to push down the overwhelming sense of shame that threatened to consume me. But instead of cleaning up the mess around me, I walked over to the refrigerator where 4 Coors Light sat waiting. I cracked one open, the familiar sound echoing through the stillness of the house. As I took a long, slow gulp, the reality of my situation hit me even harder. Here I was, surrounded by the wreckage of my life, and my first instinct was to reach for a drink. The alcohol was a temporary escape, but I knew deep down that it wouldn't fix anything. It hadn't fixed anything for a long time. Sitting at the kitchen table, beer in hand, I felt the weight of my decisions pressing down on me. The chaos around me wasn't just physical. It reflected the chaos within. I was trapped in a cycle that I didn't know how to break. But as I sat there, something shifted. For the first time, I realized that I couldn't do this alone. I needed help. Just the thought of it gave me hope. I started searching for the phone book, desperate to find some way out of the madness. As I rummaged through the clutter, tossing papers and objects onto the floor, it became clear just how far I had fallen. Everything around me was a testament to my lack of control and my ability to manage even the simplest aspects of life. Finally, I found the phone book and began flipping through the pages, my hands shaking. I knew I needed to find a place that could help me detox, a place where I could start to reclaim some semblance of control. But even in this moment of clarity, entitlement crept in. I couldn't bear the thought of checking into a state-run facility. I felt like I deserved something better, even though my actions didn't reflect that. Eventually, I found a listing for Meadowwood, a nearby hospital with a detox program. I picked up the phone and dialed the number with trembling fingers. When the woman on the other end told me that a bed wouldn't be available until Friday, I thought to myself, I'll be dead by then. It was only Monday, and I knew I couldn't survive until Friday without help. I couldn't endure another 4 days like this. But I knew I had to keep going. I couldn't let myself sink any further. This was my rock bottom, and the only way out was to start climbing, even if the path ahead seemed impossible. What are your first instincts when faced with overwhelming guilt or shame? How do those instincts help or hinder your ability to seek help? How do feelings of entitlement or pride affect your willingness to accept the help you need? A cry for help. After the failed attempt to secure immediate help from Meadowwood, I sat there, feeling more desperate and isolated than ever. The weight of my situation was unbearable, and I knew I could not face it alone. The idea of reaching out to my mother filled me with dread. How could I admit to her the depth of my failure? But deep down, I knew if I didn't make that call, I might not survive long enough to find another way out. I picked up the phone with trembling hands and dialed my mother's work number. As the phone rang, I almost hung up, but something more powerful than my fear kept me on the line. When she answered, I could barely get the words out. My voice was thick with emotion, and the shame weighed heavily on every syllable. "Mommy, it's Debbie," I managed to say, my voice breaking. "I need to tell you something. I've been drinking, smoking, doing cocaine, and I need help." The words tumbled out, each one a confession, a surrender to the truth I had avoided for so long. There was silence on the other end of the line. I could almost hear the shock as it registered with her. She had always seen me as strong, independent, and capable. This admission shattered that image, and I could hear the worry and confusion in her voice as she tried to process what I was telling her. But despite her initial shock, she didn't hesitate. She knew what needed to be done. She told me she would call Father Bill, her brother, who had helped me when I went to Breakthrough. The idea of bringing him into this made my shame deepen. How could I let him see me like this? But there was no turning back now. I had reached out for help, and it started to come, even if it wasn't the way I wanted. The minutes that followed felt like an eternity. I sat there, waiting for the return call, feeling more vulnerable than ever. My mind raced with thoughts of what Father Bill might say, what he might think of me now. But I knew this was my only option. I couldn't do this alone, and the sooner I admitted that to myself, the sooner I could start to heal. When my mother finally called back, she told me Father Bill had arranged for me to go to Karen, a well-respected treatment center. He had pulled some strings, ensuring I had a bed there. The relief I felt was mixed with fear of the unknown, fear of what lay ahead, but also fear of the fact that I was truly powerless to do this on my own. As I prepared to go to Karen, my emotions were scattered. I was afraid and ashamed, yet I felt a sense of peace, that everything would be okay. For the first time, I had taken action towards getting better, even if it meant surrendering to the fact that I needed help. I wasn't sure what the future held, but at least I had people who cared enough to help me find out. What does it mean to admit that you need help? How do you overcome the fear and shame associated with asking for it? How can you be more open to receiving support from those who care about you, even when it feels uncomfortable? Preparing for the unknown. As the reality of going to Karen set in, a whirlwind of emotions took hold of me. Fear, shame, anxiety, but also a faint glimmer of hope. This was a pivotal moment, the beginning of a journey I had no choice but to take. Yet, the thought of leaving my home, the mess that mirrored my life, and stepping into the unknown filled me with dread. My mother arrived to help me pack, her face lined with worry. She moved quietly around the house, gathering my things, while I sat there, paralyzed by what was about to happen. I couldn't shake the feeling of being a child again, needing my mother's help to make it through the day. The humiliation was almost unbearable, but I knew I had to endure it. Every item she packed felt like a reminder of how far I had fallen. Clothes that hung loosely on my frame, evidence of the toll my addiction had taken, toiletries rarely used, reflecting my neglect of even essential self-care. The suitcase was filling up, but so was my fear. How could I face this? How could I let go of the only life I knew, even if it was destroying me? As we prepared to leave, my father arrived, his presence a mix of strength and concern. He handed me my purse, a simple gesture that felt loaded with unspoken emotions. Then he revealed a 6-pack of Coors Light, following Father Bill's instructions to keep me drinking until I got to Karen. The sight of the beer, the very substance that had brought me to this point, felt like a cruel irony. But I knew it was necessary to prevent the tremors that had already started to take hold of my body. The cold and familiar beer was a bitter reminder of the cycle I was trapped in. As I cracked one open, the sound echoed through the quiet house, a stark contrast to the turmoil inside me. Each sip felt both like a comfort and a curse, keeping the withdrawal at bay, but also tethering me to the very thing I was trying to escape. I knew this was just a temporary measure, a last tie to a life that was slowly killing me. With my suitcase packed and the reality of what lay ahead settling in, we got into the car for the 90-minute journey. I sipped the beer mechanically, trying to steady my shaking hands, knowing that the real challenge was still to come. How do you cope with the fear and uncertainty that comes with stepping into the unknown, especially when it's the necessary step toward healing? In what ways can accepting help from others, even when it feels humiliating, be a powerful act of courage? the final stop before letting go. The drive to Karen was filled with tense silence, each of us lost in our thoughts, the weight of the moment pressing down on all of us, the silence between us heavy with unspoken fears. My mother sat in the front, her worry palpable, while my father focused on the road ahead, his hands gripping the steering wheel. I sipped from the Coors Light my father had given me, feeling the tremors in my hands ease, but knowing this was just a temporary fix. The alcohol was both a comfort and a bitter reminder of the hold it still had on me. As we neared Karen, Father Bill called to check up on me. My father described my worsening tremors, and Father Bill, ever level-headed, suggested we stop at the Black Horse Tavern for something more potent. The idea of stopping at a bar on the way to rehab felt like a cruel twist of fate, but I knew it was necessary. The irony wasn't lost on me as we pulled into the parking lot. Inside, the dim light and the smell of stale beer felt like a final nod to the life I was leaving behind. My father guided me to the bar and ordered a rum and coke. As the bartender slid the glass directly to me, I felt both shame and resignation. I emptied the glass in one gulp, the alcohol burning as it went down, but it didn't calm the storm inside me. I muttered that the drink was weak, but my father assured me it was strong enough. It was a double. The scene felt surreal, like a last grasp at something I could no longer afford to hold on to. With the drink finished, we continued the final stretch to Karen. The facility loomed ahead, an imposing structure that filled me with dread and a strange, reluctant hope. This was it, the final stop before everything changed. As we arrived, Father Bill met us at the entrance. He took my left arm, while my father took my right, and together they supported me as we walked in. I tried to lighten the mood with humor, raising my hand and saying, "Hi everyone, I'm here." But beneath the humor, I was scared. Scared of what lay ahead, scared of the unknown. Yet there was also a sense of surrender, of finally letting go. The admissions process was a blur, but a strange sense of calm washed over me after I was shown my room. I didn't know how, but I knew I would be okay. A heavy burden had been lifted from me, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like I didn't have to fight anymore. There was nothing left for me to do but wait, to let the process unfold, and to trust that this was the start of something different and something better. I had let go, and I found a sliver of peace in that surrender. How do you find the strength to let go and surrender when facing the unknown? What role does support from loved ones play in helping you navigate moments of fear and uncertainty? As we conclude today's exploration of surrender and the pivotal moments leading to change, we've journeyed through the depths of desperation, the irony of last attempts to hold on, and the ultimate release of letting go. We've reflected on the intense emotions that accompany the decision to seek help, the fear of the unknown, and the courage it takes to step into a new life. Surrendering isn't just about giving up. It's about acknowledging our limits and accepting that we cannot do it alone. It's the point where we stop fighting the tide and allow ourselves to be carried by the currents of change. As we've seen today, this act of surrender can feel like a loss, but it also opens the door to transformation, offering a way out of the darkness that once seemed all-consuming. In this episode, we face the difficult truths that accompany addiction and the journey toward recovery. It's a journey marked by vulnerability, fear, and ultimately hope. Letting go, as painful as it may be, is often the first step toward finding a path forward, a path that leads to healing and renewal. As we bid farewell to this chapter of our journey, let us carry forward the lessons learned, the wisdom gained, and the hope that burns brightly within us. For, in the end, it is not the destination that matters, but the journey itself, the journey of exploring our hearts and stepping into the light of our true potential. Until next time, keep nurturing your inner light and embracing the beauty of the path you walk. May you find strength in your struggles and joy in your triumphs. And remember, even in the darkest moments, a spark of light is always waiting to be discovered. Thank you for listening to this episode of From the Shadow to the Light. Join me next time as we explore the first steps toward recovery and the support it provides.